When you think of Apex Legends, what's the first thing that pops into your mind? Is it the adrenaline rush of a fast paced tactical shooter? The satisfying feeling you get when you and your teammates outsmart an opponent through cunning positioning? Well, that's the one we're going to be talking about today because this video is all about the world of Apex Legends. Hi, I'm Paula Dimming from the board game YouTube series Things Get Dicey and the board game podcast This Game is Broken. And I'm so excited to be joined today by the Chief of Development, Michael Ozan, and CEO, Jacob Wieczniewski from Glass Cannon Unplugged, the makers of Apex Legends, the board game. Thank you so much for being here. How are y'all today?
Well,
Hey,
good
Paula.
to see you.
Good to see you again.
It's nice to see y'all. So I want to know all about Kings Canyon.
Well, that's good because it's where it all started, right? Kings Canyon is the first map that we had in Apex Legends when it began. The first legends were there. And with the board game, we just wanted the players to be able to feel that nostalgia. And for the new ones to be able to step into those dust-covered hills and and buildings and see what's inside, what's cooking.
Some legendary places like the bunker, the artillery depot, etc. The locations that are well known in all the players who played Apex for years now, right? This should be place where we start, right?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. It seems like there would be challenges in taking that kind of an environment and recreating it within the physical limitations of a board game. Did you find that to be true? And if so, how did you end up approaching that?
I'll start. I think it was more than a challenge. It was a big challenge for us and all the devs. I'll let Michał delve on that later, but I'll just say that what we did with the board game itself is that when we first started working on it with the authors, we knew that we had to limit the area of the map because hey, Apex Legends takes place on locations that are kilometers wide. And I mean, no one has such a big gaming table, right?
Yeah.
That's why we had to reduce the zone of playing board to the final circle, the place where the game ends between the most successful teams of players, right? So the climax of the entire playing session, right? So that's why the board, it shows only the final few places, final few buildings that will be the scene of the ending of the entire game. Of course, Apex is not only about combat, it's also about exploration. So we have tools in-game about which you said in your last video, right? That there is also exploration phase. We build our legends, we equip them, etc., etc. But the spot on the map, the final circle, is what we display on the playing board.
And how are you taking the 3D elements of a location like Kings Canyon and bringing that into the game? Or is there going to be a lot of plastic bits? Or how are we recreating that?
We're war gamers. Me, Michał, many of our devs and testers. And I mean, it's, you can ask our wives. We have too much plastic.
I can relate to that feeling.
We wanted this board game to be accessible, that we can place inside standard board game box that fits Kallax's shelf, right?
That's important, yeah.
So we knew as experienced board gamers and war gamers that plastic terrain is cumbersome, can cause frustration while assembling, painting, and so on. And we wanted our players to feel right at home. We just wanted for them to, when they open the box and set up the board, so that they'll know they're in Kings Canyon or any other map of Apex Legends. And this is why we took a different approach. We went for printed cardboard buildings that are foldable and extremely easy to set up and then clean up and put into the box. Actually, it's always better to look at something than just listen about it. So I'll just give you a short presentation. So this is a prototype, so not the final, quality.
Product.
So this, I'd say, wrapping roller has, as you can see, some pretty nice graphics.
Taken directly from the game, right?
Stuff like this. And this one is made of much sturdier cardboard. So what do we get if we put these two together? We get a nice solid building that is more than capable of holding other buildings, because the terrain in Apex Legends, the board game, is going to be stackable. So you'll be stacking up to 3 levels of buildings like this. So it's double layered. It's made of satin cardboard, and it's extremely durable. And this is more or less how the final product will look like.
As you have seen, you can, in seconds, put them on the table and also remove them and put flat into the box. So everything will fit the standard core box of the game.
And it seems like you could take those and put them in different arrangements on the map to have different environments that you've created for variety in your games.
Exactly. And Michał, before we jump into that, can you tell us how many buildings will there be in the core box, more or less? Not to spoil it too much.
Around 12 to 16 buildings, as you show, right? Because we need different sizes to be able to construct different buildings, as you said, with different number of levels, right? So our devs want to have a maximum accessibility to create scenarios. So they ask us for different sizes of the buildings and compositions of them, right? And if we want to have, they are creating different boards, for example, a canyon in which buildings are on the opposite sides of the board, or some like streets between buildings. So they will need different shapes and sizes to be able to make interesting maps for scenarios.
Great. And in terms of the actual board itself, how have you delineated the space on that board? Are you using hexes or squares or squiggly lines?
It started with hexes. The initial prototype of Thanos and Michael was made with hexes, but during the test and development of the game, we were thinking mostly about line of sight and accessibility for players. So it went during the process that squares are easier for players to judge the distance, to count the distance, and also to determine line of sight, right? So we have very simple methods to find out if you can see anything. If it is, it's very easy to make 45 degrees lines when you have a square board, right? So everything that inside those 44 degrees and is not blocked by a terrain or obstacle, it's visible. So this led us to make accessible line of sight system. That's why the squares are in the final game.
And if I may, we were all about that accessibility, because first of all, we knew that Apex Legends, being such a massive IP and having millions of players across the globe, we will reach people who might have not played a skirmish game or a board game ever before. And we just wanted to make this game a great gateway for them to come and join others in the hobby, while having the line of sight mechanics allowed us to build upon that. And for the more experienced players, we'll have plenty of options as well. In most skirmish games out there, and there's plenty, I mean, there's at least 6 from my personally beloved Games Workshop. Then there's X-Wing, Star Wars, there's Infinity, there's Harry Potter, Batman, Marvel. and Frostgrave, which is a small system but really cool. But they all, most of them, use rather complex systems for line of sight that often cause players different dilemmas,
Yes.
especially competitive play. And want to avoid it. And Apex Legends, the board game, it's called the board game because it uses the accessibility of a board game and clear rule set that will allow people to jump straight into the action.
Yeah, and if you have it approachable in that way, it really then lets you focus on recreating those epic outsmart moments from the video game in the board game.
That's true.
It's very hard to catch up dynamics in a board game because Apex is very dynamic. But I think that we have.
You're playing jungle speed.
Yeah, and but you need to have strong hands to play it, right? So in Apex they are not needed. We wanted to force players to move during the game.
Yeah,
and we even do not have to force them because the Apex, the board game, the positioning of Legends during the gameplay is very important, and there is plenty of stuff that encourages you to move. For example, loot bins, boxes with loot, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to get additional ammo, if you want to get extra attachments for your weapon, if you want to get some med kits or shield cells, right? You need to get into the board and start looting. The second thing that encourages players to move is the ring barrier. It shrinks with every 3 rounds. The barrier shrinks towards the center of the board. The third reason to move is to get better position, because the scenario boards are built in a way that there are different positions on them that are very, handy. For example, elevated position for a sniper, or some corridors of movement that enables you to get to that sniper with shotgun or different weapon, right? So Legends are moving every round. Players do not stay in a position; they just go forward.
Yeah, it sounds like you've added a lot of things into the game with trying to keep it feeling dynamic and reactive through those things, like the ring closing in, the loot bins dropping, really encouraging players to get out there and not just stake a claim in one spot on the map, but move around and really interact with each other.
Oh, there's a cool story connected to that, actually. Last week, we had one of our sellers, Michael, who was going to the Cannes festival.
Oh, cool.
And he was playing with our testers. And he had a break in playing Apex, the board game, for a while. And he, I think, forgot how dynamic it is. So he positioned his legend, I think it was Gibraltar, thinking he'll tank all the damage, on top of a roof. And one of our testers who was playing Bloodhound really quickly explained him that there's no point in standing in one place. One good shooting round.
You said something that is very important from our design perspective. Legends have their own powers,
abilities. And field. Yeah.
Yes, and they use those abilities. For example, Wrath, she can teleport herself between spaces on board, right? So also abilities of Legends enables them to move and use them to get tactical, to get onto a better position or get the better loot from the board, right? So there is also a fourth important factor here. Okay, Jacob, you mentioned another very important thing. So it's the fourth reason to move during the gameplay. Legends have their own abilities, which enables them to move, in a better way than the others. For example, we have Legends who are defensive, like Gibraltar, who is more like standing like a rock. But we have also Legends which are very fast, like Wrath. She can teleport herself, right? So you get your when you play your Legend right, you get a tactical, due to her abilities, right? So this is also important factor in winning the game, using your legend well, and some of them, their strength is in fast moving.
So different legends for different play styles, a little something for everyone depending on how they want their game to go.
Oh yeah, definitely. And this is something also that's, it's the same as in the video game. You just want to play each one of those legends and try their cool abilities and see how they will influence your game. Because this is the brilliance of each game design. You design a core set of rules, and then you design characters to break those rules in cool ways. And this is what Apex Legends does really good among other video games. And this is what we implemented into the board game. So if you're playing Wraith standing in one corner, you're doing it wrong. If you're playing Bloodhound, for example, and trying to soak all the damage, that's also wrong. You need different characters, and then you learn the combos between them, and this is where the magic happens.
Well, Jacob, Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me a bit about the world of Apex Legends and how you've translated that into the board game space. And thank you for watching and learning along with me. If you want to read more about this topic, you can check out the full article linked in the description below. Now stay tuned because we've got lots more discussion about the game coming soon. And make sure you follow the Kickstarter page for Apex Legends, the board game, also linked in the description below. Now remember, Legends change the game. Will you become one? Bye, everyone.